thank you so much. So for folks joining us, I'm Dave Strohmeyer. I'm joined by Commissioner Juanita Ferro. And I'd like to call to order this Thursday, November 4th meeting of the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. We begin by reminding each other that Missoula County and this event, virtual as it is, takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Violet, will you please unfurl the colors? Okay, there they are. And if you all will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
which it stands,
one nation
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for hanging with us. It's always a little awkward to recite something like that in unison virtually, but okay. Any public announcements that we need to address or staff announcements at this time? And for this next item, which is public comment on non-agenda items, or for any of our other agenda items today for which anyone wants to speak, if you're joining via Microsoft Teams, please use the raise hand function and I will call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. And I don't see anyone joining via phone. If anyone is on the phone or wants to join via phone for whatever reason, hit *6 and unmute yourself and start speaking at the appropriate time and introduce yourself. Please try not to be redundant if you're speaking on a topic to which other folks have already spoken. Try to keep your comments as succinct to 3 minutes or so as possible, and I will queue you up at the appropriate time. But right now, is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Any public comment on anything that's, I should say, within our jurisdiction that's not otherwise going to be addressed on the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. Our claims. This would be our claims list of the Board of County Commissioners. Claims received between October 6th and October 26th. Total $5,090,140.49. We have 4 public hearings today, one of which actually I think when we get to it, we'll note that we are going to postpone any formal discussion on it today and ask for an extension. I believe that's the West Point subdivision, but we have 3 others for which we will open the public hearings, have a presentation by staff, followed by comments or presentation by the applicant or applicant's representative, followed by public comment, questions from the commission, and commission action. So I'll begin by opening up a public hearing on proposed school zone speed limit extension resolution. And we'll begin with a presentation by, or comments by Eric Dixon, who's with our Public Works Department. Eric?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. So for the record, Eric Dixon, County Engineer with the Public Works Department. The resolution that I've brought for your consideration today is the extension of a school zone and school zone speed limit on East Mullen Road at Clinton Elementary. In August of 2014, we established the existing school zone speed limit, which I will share my screen so that you can see that. So the red highlight denotes the school zone speed limit that was established in 2014 by resolution 2014-095. The Clinton School District since then, recently this year actually, has expanded their campus when they acquired a non-contiguous parcel of land located at 20359 East Mullen Road. So that is where the current school zone ends. This parcel of land also includes a building which the district is using for daily pre-kindergarten school activities. And so that requires morning bus drop off and also requires that parents have access to that building throughout the day. So this request is to extend the school zone and school zone speed limit to Gold Street, which is the blue highlight there. And that will allow traffic to be slowed down to the school zone speed limit before they reach the actual school facilities where they have the school zone traffic, both vehicular and pedestrian. We also have on the call with us today Amanda Sear, who is the superintendent of the Clinton Elementary School. So if there are any questions or comments for me or Amanda, we are both available.
Thanks. Thanks, Eric. Superintendent Sear, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Take that off there. I don't think so. As he had said, with that new classroom right there, and we have kids that go to the playground right there, and with the road as close as it is, we'd like to do anything we can to make sure that we're keeping our kids safe.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the resolution? Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions, Juanita?
Nope, this seems delightfully straightforward, and yes, we want to keep our children safe. So I don't have any comments other than I motioned that we consider a resolution to extend the school zone and the school zone speed limit on East Mullen Road of Clinton Elementary School.
Okay, I will second the motion to adopt the resolution. Any further discussion on the motion?
I just want to thank Eric real quick. I'm so sorry. I just want to thank Eric real quick for his work and for coming out and walking through it all with me and making sure that this happens. So thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our second public hearing, which I'll open, is on a 310 permit, proposed 310 permit related to the Riverfront Triangle Phase 1. And Todd. Do we not? Todd, there you are. It looks like you're muted.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Todd Cleats, Missoula County Floodplain Administrator. What you have before you today is a 310 permit for a portion of the Riverfront Triangle District. And so you can see where we're at. This is Orange Street, if you're able to see my screen. And we're talking about the hospital building parking here through these properties down here. And to get a better look at that, we'll take a Google Drive. There's Orange Street. There's the parking lot, which is not part of this particular project, but we're talking about this parking structure here and going downstream to include this office infrastructure, this parking here, and this building and this building. All those buildings were constructed in the 60s and are posed for redevelopment. This is within the city zoning district that requires a 50-foot setback from the river, which would certainly be outside of the 310 permit jurisdiction. However, the infrastructure that's already there, including these structures, which are way too close, as well as the riverbank, are within the jurisdiction. And this request is coming from WGM Group on behalf of the developers. And what they've designed is based on an anticipated request and approval to the city to reduce that 50-foot setback to 25 feet. Within that 25 feet, the city has agreed that if this variance to the city has been passed and approved, the developers have agreed to provide a public access easement along the riverbank there for general use. At this point, though, in time, we're not talking about, or the developers are not requesting anything to do with that. They're requesting under phase 1 here to demolish these existing structures and begin the process for getting the property ready for redevelopment, which will be submitted to us later under a Phase 2 application. So I will now turn it over to Eric Anderson with WGM Group to further explain what they proposed. And then I'll follow up after that with some comments from your 310 team member reports. And again, the reason why the commissioners are being requested to do this is because it's within the 1946 city limits of Missoula, where the Missoula Conservation District does not have jurisdiction, but the county commissioners do. Eric, you want to go ahead?
Eric?
Sure, thanks, Todd. Is it possible to share my screen, or should I just describe a couple things?
No, we will make you a presenter.
Okay.
Violet, could you do that, please?
Yep. Eric, you should have the option to present now.
Okay, great. I don't have much, but I wanted to point out a couple of things. Yeah, Todd did a great job with the summary. Appreciate that, Todd. One thing I wanted to clarify, this exhibit I have up here, I also showed on Monday, but I wanted to point out one thing. The green is the new building footprint, which is going to be set back from the river, and at its tightest point, which is about right here.
Eric, can you make this a little bigger, please, or if it's possible?
Definitely. Let me zoom in on this section here.
Great, thank you.
It might be a little bit fuzzy, but on this west end, the building is set back 25 feet. The future building is set back 25 feet from the top of the stream bank, which is actually about 70 feet from the river itself, because the stream bank takes up quite a bit of room there. So in any case, it's a little bit more breathing room than 25 feet from the edge of the river, I guess was my point there. The original setback in zoning is 50 feet from the floodplain boundary, and if a variance is approved, that will be 25 feet from the top of stream bank. So that's this future building. There's actually the rest of the building is greater than that 70 feet, and that's the tightest point. So I want to clarify that, and then just real quick go through a few of the things that we're doing to make specific riparian accommodations, both with this Phase 1 310 permit and then with the Phase 2 310 permit that we'll submit within the next year. First of all, we're not actually doing any stream or work in the stream. We're minimizing to all extent possible the work on the stream bank. We have one pipe that'll need to be removed with the building demolition. We think that it's part of the roof drain system. We're, to the extent possible, we're protecting the existing riparian vegetation that's out there, especially the mature trees. You know, right, this Phase 1 permit, we're just trying to remove what's out there. Unfortunately, some of it's kind of tangled with the existing vegetation. So we're trying to limit that to the extent possible. We're planning to actually delineate the clearing limits during construction, so there's not any like oopsies during construction and clearing of vegetation that's supposed to be preserved. We have specified additional BMPs, namely this berm that's going to go between the site, the demolition construction, and the stream bank itself to kind of contain the runoff during that period. The project will have to have a SWIP. The contractor will have to have a stormwater pollution prevention plan that they submit to DEQ, which will have additional BMPs other than that berm I was talking about. And it will also specify temporary stabilization and permanent stabilization that has to occur. Temporary stabilization being any area that's left dormant for 14 days has to be stabilized. And then before they can close their SWIP out, they have to permanently stabilize with appropriate vegetation the entire site. I mentioned the setbacks for the buildings already. And then in Phase 2, we plan to show the final trail placement on the site, as well as buildings, all the grading, and show how it all comes together, along with a riparian revegetation plan that will be as a part of that plan set. And if you've already looked at the recommended motion, we do plan to remove the concrete that's on the stream bank during that phase 2 310 permit. Some of it may require some restabilization of the bank because it's currently, some of it is stabilizing the bank, and we don't want to take it out and have it unravel. So I just wanted to go over those points. That's all I had, and I'm certainly available for any questions the commissioners may have.
Thanks, Eric. Much appreciated. We might have some questions for you here in a second. Todd, back to you.
Yeah, I think maybe before I go over the recommendations from the 310 team, Eric, I don't believe that today you certainly showed the exhibit, but I don't believe you described where the existing structures are as compared to where the new structures are going to be. I think that's a pretty important thing to bring up. Could you show that diagram again?
Yeah, certainly. I showed that on Monday. I'll go ahead and show that again. Flip to that slide. Okay, so this slide shows the current structure footprint. There is a parking structure here on the east end, an old hospital building, which is next to it, and then a surface parking lot next to it. And then on the far western edge, there's two older small buildings that were related to the old hospital operations. So this is the existing footprint right up to the edge of the bank through most of the site. And then I'll flip to this next one, which shows proposed. This is the proposed footprint, stepped quite a bit back from the existing.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Thanks. And before we go to you, Todd, Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, Todd and Eric are doing a great job. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, thanks. Todd?
Yeah, so if I can share, what I want to show you are the 310 permit reports. And these were prepared by your 310 team, and the 310 team consists of Elena Evans from the Water Quality District and Lad Notek from Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And so we'll just briefly go through these insignificant considerations. You'll see that they're marked. Some moderate considerations, nothing significant. I believe this one was from the Water Quality District. They do have some specific recommendations, and I believe Eric's addressed some of those. From Water Quality District, a revegetation plan, timing, and plant survival rates should be identified prior to removal of current structures and grading, and that best management practices for reduction of silt should be adhered to and maintained. The revegetation plan, regardless, there's a little bit of unknowns here in this, in that we don't know for certain if that variant setback is going to be approved or not. So we don't know for sure if there's going to be a public walkway there. And if there is a public walkway there, we don't know at this point if that would be the applicant that would be constructing that, or if that could potentially be the city of Missoula. Regardless, if it's the applicant or the city of Missoula, they will have to come back through a permitting process with us, if it's the applicant, for a 310 permit process, or with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for a 124 permit. And both of those permit processes will address revegetation plan, timing, and plant survival rates. So that will be addressed in the future. Now looking specifically at Fish, Wildlife, and Parks recommendations, again, it's significant on these. The specific recommendations down at the bottom here: minimal disturbance to existing woody vegetation. So that's why Eric had indicated that they're going to do some work. There is a waste pipe down there, but it's not immediately surrounded by any woody vegetation, so it's not going to disturb any of that vegetation there. BMPs and a physical barrier. Again, there will be a silt fence and also a dirt berm that will be there, which is in addition to the the minimum silt fence barrier. Scrap concrete and trash, the remaining of that will be taken care of through the riparian management plan. And then re-veg, of course, will happen during the riparian management plan too. We don't want to have them spend a lot of effort in planting seed and trying to revegetate this bank at this particular point in time, because we don't want all those plantings to not have immediate access to water until appropriate sprinklers are in place where that at least initially can go through the survival seasons. So that's what I had for there, and you'll see some more information in the report as well as a recommended motion to approve.
Thanks, Todd. Is there any public comment on the 310 permit? Yeah, Eric.
I forgot to make one point there during my spiel. I wanted to toss out the consideration of modifying the motion just a little bit for clarity's sake, because I had to ask this question myself to Todd, and I have it up. Sorry, I can share my screen to show it. Just a second. So it's just at the end of the motion to clarify that the phase 2 permit application be submitted within 1 year of the approval date for the phase 1. I think it currently reads
Completing date.
Yeah, the completion date, which at first to me sounded like possibly the completion date of construction. And so I asked Todd, and he said that's meant to be the approval date for phase 1 permit. So just a suggestion there. Thank you.
So Todd or John Hart, are we okay with this proposed amended motion language?
Yeah, that original language, I believe, was drafted from part of the application. So this definitely clarifies it, and definitely okay from my end for this.
Okay. No objections, John Hart?
No objections.
Thank you. Okay, any questions, Juanita?
Yeah, maybe this isn't really related to the 310 permit, but with this demolition, what is there a requirement for any sort of recycling or reuse of the material? Does anyone know? So is this too early in the process to tell?
I don't know the answer to that, Commissioner. I haven't heard of any specific plans for that. In a lot of cases, I would imagine the parking structure will be recycled. The concrete's usually usable and ground up for reuse. I do know asbestos mitigation has been completed and is done on all the buildings, but that's all I know about in regards to demo.
All right. Thanks.
Do we have any, well, do you have any sense of whether this site that will be demoed here is also part of what was the city dump at one time? Because I know to the east, that was a dumping grounds into the river for a good period of time. And is there any concern that once you start removing the concrete, it's one thing leads to another, and you're going to find more material that needs to be removed that has the potential to kind of unravel the bank more than what you anticipate?
We've had these discussions. I've had a lot of discussions about this with Chris Behan. He was very involved with the bauxite cleanup project, and there is a chance. I don't think it's been done yet. I can't remember, but there is plans to do some additional drilling, geotechnical drilling for foundation design. But I think it was decided to wait on that until the demolition is complete. And that would tell us more information if we think we're going to get into trash. But the work that was done on the riverfront or the bauxite cleanup indicates there's maybe a chance in the southeast corner of the project, near where Owen Street comes down, but it's not believed to be further to the west.
Okay. Thanks.
I
Any
didn't
other-
know that historical fact, Dave. Thank you. So
Yeah, it's one of the less glamorous pieces of Missoula history where we saw the river as a glorified sewer for many, many years. So any other questions, or how about a motion?
I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve the Riverfront Triangle Phase 1 310 permit, subject to Phase 2, including riverbank debris removal and riparian management plan being submitted within 1 year of the approval date for the Phase 1 permit.
I will second that. Any further discussion on the motion? See none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Todd. Good
Thank
luck
you.
with
Thanks,
the
everyone.
project. Yeah, this it's been a long time coming, seeing some redevelopment down there. So I hope it all comes to fruition.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next public hearing is on a request to approve a condition amendment for the C&H subdivision. And there's Bailey. Bailey, do you want to provide us a staff report?
Yes, hopefully you guys can see my PowerPoint presentation that hopefully popped up. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. So this is the C&H subdivision condition amendment. The property, here, I'll go to the next slide. It's located off of Professional Drive, which is a new road that came in with this subdivision, C&H subdivision. So it's just located here on Highway 10, just before you get to the Y interchange. There's that railroad trestle bridge that goes over, and it's just before that. It is involving 2 of the lots. Oh, here, I guess I'll go through. So it's zoned industrial, CI1. It is a commercial subdivision that was approved. And the zoning does match the land use element for the industrial center as well. I get going too far ahead in my brain, so sorry about that.
And Bailey, maybe you're going to note this here at some point, but if folks are having a moment of deja vu, this is not the first time that this is being brought forward. This is a continuation of a discussion that was begun, or a public hearing that was opened some time back.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, actually, I was going to bring that up here. It was, I'll just get to it now. So the request on May 27th, this request was brought before the Board of County Commissioners with actually a recommendation for denial from staff. And that was based off comments that we've had submitted with the Missoula Rural Fire District. And so to get into that, they were proposing to amend condition number 8 of the subdivision. So this subdivision was approved in 2018 for 5 lots for commercial use, as in compliance with the zoning and everything. The condition number 8 required that fire sprinklers be installed in all new buildings within the subdivision. And they're requesting to amend that condition only for lots 4 and 5 to allow for a water storage system in lieu of the fire sprinklers. So the original condition would remain for lots 1, 2, and 3. And so they have been working with their representative to come up with the water supply calculations that would be required. And those were submitted. It would actually be made up of 2 5,000 gallon storage tanks located along the internal subdivision road. So as part of this process, we notify advisory agencies for comment. The comments came back in May from Missoula Rural Fire that were in opposition to the request. So at that May hearing, we actually had some discussion with Missoula Rural Fire. They had some some ideas or some things that could be amended in the application to make it a supportable request. So since that time, the applicant has been working on that, and they did submit an updated fire suppression plan and additional information on September 29th. And we sent that back out for agency comments, and Missoula Rural Fire has submitted new comments in support of the request based on that updated information. So we did review the request under section 6.7 of our adjustments to filed plats, because this is a filed final plat, not a preliminary plat. And so we are recommending approval, but we do have some conditions. Obviously, the language that would be needed for condition 8, which is the one that they're amending, would need to be modified a little bit. So we do have some draft language to be added. It's a weird situation. We don't want that condition to be wholly removed, right? Because it still has to apply to lots 1, 2, and 3. So we have an additional little paragraph that would actually be added to that condition 8, just specific to lots 4 and 5 regarding their fire suppression plan. And that also includes the requirement for a fire alarm system to be reviewed and approved by Missoula Rural as well. And then if the condition is approved ultimately by the commissioners, it kind of kicks in these other 2 things that would need to happen. One is there is some specific language within the recorded covenants requiring fire sprinklers in all buildings that would need to be amended in order for this to go forward with this project. And so we have some draft language. That's what we use when we have subdivisions that have this type of project come in. So they're pretty consistent conditions that we would see on a normal preliminary plat that we've had come through. But also there is a note that is on the face of the filed final plat that also would need to be tweaked or amended. And so we have a condition requiring not necessarily a whole new plat, but just an affidavit that would be recorded as an exhibit to the filed plat to basically state that lots 4 and 5 have had this condition amendment as well. So it still keeps everything in place for the other lots 1, 2, and 3, and just these extra things. So that's what we're recommending with our conditions. And I have that motion, and I can answer any questions. John Kellogg is here representing PCI and the applicant, and I'm sure he can happy to answer any questions as well.
Thanks, Bailey. John, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I appreciate Bailey working with us on this, and also Pete Giardino, Deputy Fire Marshal, from the beginning. He has identified the sizing of the cisterns that are going to be part of this system, and Matt Kavanaugh has been working with Pete, and we certainly appreciate him and his ability to accept this is a good safety alternative to the sprinkler systems. I also wanted to add in the letter the email from Pete Giardino, in addition to approving the size, the 10,000 gallon size of the cisterns, he also says that they've approved the fire alarm system that Dynamark has submitted. So we're pretty well working along with Pete on that. Also wanted to mention that as I said, I appreciate staff working with us, and Matt is kind of anxious to get going on this, and he thinks it's a good approach. I guess I want to emphasize the reason that we submitted this after the approval of the subdivision was that at the time of the subdivision submittal, we did not have specific plans for the structures and their what materials they would be built from, and so that's why once that was nailed down, we could then work toward a fire suppression system that would be appropriate under the NFPA standards. So appreciate your patience with this. Thank you.
Hey, Bailey, do you have like a visual of folks or where we can see the buildings, the cisterns, but if it's not Don't worry about it.
Or John, if you have anything like that.
Yeah. I have one here. Give me 1 second. To
I believe
find
it was part of our submittal, the layout, that the buried cisterns would be right to the left as you're entering into the subdivision, and there would be a port there that would be accessible to the fire trucks as they arrive.
Here, hold
In
on.
one building, I feel like I remember straddles 2 parcels.
That's correct. Yes.
So if you, hopefully you guys can see this and I can zoom in here. So here's the where Professional Drive and Highway 10 meet. And so these would be the 2 tanks. This is their proposed location. And so the building, yeah, and the parking and things like that. So. And I did also run the request by Public Works since this is a private road, it's not a county road. So there wasn't any issues necessarily with the location, like any permits needed for encroachments in like the right of way or anything like that. The only concern Public Works had, and I believe he's been in contact with PCI, Brent O'Connor has, and I think they were meeting on site or with the property owner as well, is just making sure it won't mess up any of the stormwater drainage plans or anything like that, because I believe there is proposed to be like a retention pond or some type of a swale or something out here beyond my knowledge or expertise necessarily on what it's called, but that was mainly Public Works concern, but it wasn't something that necessarily is a deal breaker. It's just making sure that that still keeps everything in line as well.
Okay, thanks, Bailey.
Thank you.
Any public comment on the proposed condition amendment? See none. Any other questions, Juanita?
No. I move that the board approve the condition amendment for the C&H subdivision with the recommended conditions of approval as detailed in the staff report.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Glad we could get here. Thanks, John.
Thanks, John and Bailey, for hanging with this and coming up with a workable solution.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, John Hart, I'm assuming this is to you, or maybe it's Bailey. I'm still looking at you. Whoever wants to provide an update on where we're at with the West Point phasing plan extension.
Don't scare me like that, Commissioner. Go ahead, Bailey. She's the expert on this project.
I'm the expert,
But
yeah.
I only know enough to be dangerous.
Oh gosh, see Ryan nodding as well. I'm like, I'm now the expert. I did get an email. So after Monday's CAPS update, I did receive an email from WGM, from Jamie, requesting that we postpone this item again to December 2nd. And I guess the one thing I wanted you guys to know, I think I mentioned that the last time too, is, the reason we have to keep postponing this is because the subdivision, there is an expiration date. And so we can't just push it out to, whenever. We have to keep moving it and show that we're doing this just for the timeline of that. So that's why I'm basically would be coming to you, and they're requesting to postpone it again. We're working with the neighbors. Actually, Ryan and I are going to meet tomorrow morning. We've been in contact with the neighbors, try to get these things straightened out so that when this subdivision improvement agreement comes before you and the request comes before you, we might not be able to address everything that the neighbors want. There might be things that are outside of the county's role, or the county, can't be that mediator for those items, but we'd at least like to have the items that can be addressed, should they be addressed, and more of a bullet point, yes, no, or not applicable kind of a discussion. So hopefully it can be finished up, because we really would like to see this project wrapped up as well.
Thanks, Bailey. Ryan, anything you'd like to add?
No, just kind of, I'll expand a little bit on Bailey did a great job and has been awesome to work with, and I appreciate the commissioner's patience on this. There's definitely some public comment that we got in those emails that is outside of what we're considering right now. So I think it's worth the time to sit down with the two neighbors. I spent this morning going through their comment letters line by line, putting my responses in there. And if it's in a, if it's an HOA issue, I'd like to sit down with those folks and see if we can agree that it's an HOA issue. And then I also would like to take the time to go through our cost estimate for the improvements agreement with the neighbors. And so if they have questions and think something's not included, I want to point them to it or make sure that it is included so they feel like they're the improvements for phase one that are not completed are secured appropriately.
Okay, well, I guess in order to be official, how about Juanita, if we have a motion to extend the public hearing until December 2nd?
I will make that motion.
I will second it. Any further discussion or public comment on extending the public hearing until December 2nd? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye. Thanks, Bailey and Ryan, for doing that.
Okay, we'll reach the finish line eventually here.
Yeah, feels close. Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, that ends all of our official business. Is there any other business to come before the commission today? Okay, seeing none. 2:42, we'll be adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
All right, goodbye.